Welcome into Dolphins Today. Thanks for making it a part of your day. And we begin with breaking news, but news a lot of us believed was very, very close to becoming final. And according to Ian Rapoport, it is final. The Dolphins will officially not elect to use the franchise tag on Christian Wilkins. Here's what Ian Rapoport had to say on the X. The Dolphins will not franchise tag standout defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, sources say, meaning the longtime pillar of Miami's defense will be a free agent. Wilkins will be the one of the top free agents regardless of position. NFL.com put out that list, and he was number 4 on the top 100 free agents. But you talk about a guy that can impact the offense and wreak havoc on the opposition from the defensive tackle position, and Christian Wilkins certainly fits that mold. And if you've been watching Dolphins Today and you followed our coverage from the Combine, shout out to the boys in Indy, by the way, excellent work. This was beginning to pick up some steam over the weekend, and now it appears it is exactly that, final, that the Dolphins will not elect to use the franchise tag on Christian Wilkins, which makes a lot of sense because if he's going to stay with the Aqua and Orange, and given the lack of salary cap space that the Dolphins have, it would have to be a long-term deal. Now, you look at the production from Christian Wilkins, and Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier basically said as much, that the guy had a breakout year, so he deserves and has earned the opportunity to test the free agent market. Now, he's had the most tackles among NFL defensive linemen since he entered the league in 2019, so it wasn't just this year. It's been a level of consistency since being drafted out of Clemson since 2019. Pro Football Focus agrees, one of the better players at the defensive tackle position. Although when you look at some of those PFF grades, and if you watch Dolphins football every Sunday like we did here on Dolphins Today, you would think, hey, wait a second, this was a guy that meant more to the team than the 29th best defensive line player, according to PFF. But the 9.5 sacks, a career high in 2023. And I always say this about Christian Wilkins, that he does a lot of the immeasurable things too, the things that don't necessarily show up on the stat sheet. Plays with a little bit of an edge, is a vocal leader in the locker room. Those are things you can't quantify with statistics, and a lot of that was really shown on Hard Knocks, the in-season Hard Knocks, because you saw the way he galvanized the team, the defense specifically, played with a little chippiness, and those are all characteristics that adds value to a prominent player like Christian Wilkins. And when you talk about a level of consistency, just look at the last 4 seasons. Again, the 9.5 sacks this past season, but has played in 17 games, 3 of his 4 seasons in the National Football League. So not just making impacts on the field, but available, right? That is a huge part of success in the National Football League, is availability. And obviously the Dolphins felt firsthand the impact of players not being available or really being decimated by injuries. And Christian Wilkins has been the model of consistency over the course of the last 4 seasons. So it begs the question, now that the franchise tag is officially off the table, will Miami re-sign Christian Wilkins? Type Y for yes or N for no. Now, I'm going to choose to be a little optimistic for you, and I know you might go after me in the comments, and that's fair, because there's a little bit of a hopeful optimism with Christian Wilkins, that when you take where the Miami Dolphins are as an organization in terms of salary space, that if they're going to be able to re-sign Christian Wilkins, that's it. It's an all-in investment, and likely really the only guy that you'll be able to re-sign among some of those premier free agents that Miami is in danger of losing. So, that said, I still am optimistic because of everything that we've mentioned. He's a vocal leader, the production on the field, the way he can galvanize the team. Those are all reasons why Mike McDaniel, Chris Grier, and the entire organization want Christian Wilkins back. It's just going to come with a very, very pricey price tag. Now, let's take a look at some other Dolphins rumors that are speculating, going on around the National Football League, as Jeremy Fowler of ESPN had a report out about L'Jarius Sneed to the Miami Dolphins, which makes a lot of sense when you think about what the Dolphins could do defensively by adding a big name like L'Jarius Sneed to the secondary. Then we'll also touch on a few free agent targets as well. But Jeremy Fowler, who was at the NFL Combine, breaking news as always, had this to say on Twitter that the Chiefs have informed L'Jarius Sneed they are prepared to use the franchise tag and are open to consummate a trade off of it if no long-term deal is reached per source. So the old tag and trade play may be activated here. Sneed is agreeable to the scenario, giving him the chance to talk with other teams while Kansas City also remains in play. Now, a little bit more context here from Fowler. Sneed, and talking about L'Jarius Sneed, was a popular position of discussion in Indy, of course referring to the Combine, most notably for the trade market. We know the Chiefs are working on a potential tag and trade with L'Jarius Sneed, and multiple teams are believed to be in the mix there. Now, Fowler went on to say the word out of Indy is that Detroit is pretty set on adding a high-end corner, so the Lions are one to watch. Miami is worth keeping an eye on too, and we do have some updates from Adam Schefter that are brand new into Chat Sports right now. And Schefter tweeted this out saying the Chiefs officially have placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on cornerback L'Jarius Sneed. They are open to trading him at the right price. And now that becomes a whole new element of the conversation. And what does that price look like? Well, let's turn to our guy Ari on that one with a little bit more context and some of the nitty-gritty on the actual price. He said the Chiefs have officially placed the franchise tag on L'Jarius Sneed. The official price tag, $19.8 million. A trade is very possible, but will require compensation for Kansas City and a long-term deal for Sneed. There are a lot of moving parts here, and that becomes a part of the conversation for the Miami Dolphins. So I ask you, do you want the Dolphins to pursue L'Jarius Sneed? If you do, it will be by way of a trade, which we've just learned. Type T for trade. Or if you're good, you're set. Type G for I'm good. Either way, let your voice be heard and let me know what you think down in the comments. Trade for L'Jarius Sneed, or are you good? Too many moving parts, big price tag. Let's allocate resources elsewhere. Want to remind you, for all of your Dolphins news, make sure you subscribe to the channel because it's free. We do this every day, bringing you everything from the Aqua and Oranges from every single angle. Now, here's where I'm at with the cornerback situation with the Miami Dolphins because it's certainly very intriguing. Obviously, we know Xavier Howard, in all likelihood, gone after that June 1st cut date. So until then, he's still a member of the Miami Dolphins. Jalen Ramsey, cornerback 1. Kader Kohou at times really struggled at that nickel corner position last year. But underneath Jalen Ramsey, that's right, Cam Smith. Who can forget Cam Smith, the second-round pick out of South Carolina last year? And without the Dolphins having a first-round pick, he was their first guy off the board. And we never really got a chance to see what he was made of. Now, when you look at L'Jarius Sneed in comparison, obviously this is a bona fide superstar on the defensive side of things, a huge part of the Chiefs' back-to-back Super Bowl champions. The coverage stats in 2023 through 16 games are impressive. The 2 interceptions, breaking up 14 passes, didn't allow a single touchdown. I mean, when you look at those stats in a snapshot and you realize why the price tag is so high for L'Jarius Sneed. And obviously, the way my mind works, I think, well, L'Jarius Sneed and Jalen Ramsey, you wouldn't be able to find a better cornerback duo in the National Football League than that. So hypothetically speaking, what an ideal situation. I mean, 2 lockdown corners. You could even make the case maybe cornerback 1 and cornerback 2 in all the National Football League and have them both on your squad. That would certainly be something for new defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver to, what a way to start your career and your tenure as a defensive coordinator. Hey, you got 2 of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. It would be lethal, but there is that little piece of me in the back of my mind that wonders, we don't know what Cam Smith really has. Does the kid deserve a chance? Obviously, you invested the value of a second-round pick in the kid, And with what he had shown prior to his time for the Miami Dolphins in college, and then you could say in the preseason, it's somebody that I don't think the door is fully closed on yet after just a rookie season where he really wasn't afforded an opportunity. And Chris Grier spoke as much at the NFL Combine on Cam Smith, saying you watch his preseason stuff, and he played very well in the preseason. He got banged up at the end, came back. At the end of the day, he was learning a big system early. When you look at the history of guys and the young players, it takes a little bit. And so he worked hard. Now, it's not a ringing endorsement, but at the same time, it feels like there's still an element of belief there to Cam Smith from Chris Grier. Now, this is also kind of interesting. Follow me with it. So this is Chris Grier's comments referring to a conversation he had with Jalen Ramsey about Cam Smith. And said in talking to Jalen Ramsey the other day, he was saying how he loves Cam Smith. And he thinks he's going to be a good player. He loves Cam Smith's game. So obviously Cam Smith has shown a lot in practice. Chris Grier referenced the preseason and has the attention of his teammates, in particular the leader of that secondary room in Jalen Ramsey. So my point is, if Smith never gets a shot, we'll really never know. And if you got guys like Jalen Ramsey, you got Chris Grier, the general manager, people that have exercised a belief and shown a belief in Cam Smith, I think it's worth trying out, at least in the near future for the Miami Dolphins, if he can be a guy that makes an impact from the cornerback position. So I asked you to pick a cornerback. L'Jarius Sneed's going to cost you a lot. You're going to have to give up quite a bit, probably draft capital in addition to the huge contract. Or do we see what we have in the, I'll say rookie, because he basically didn't even play. He had a redshirt year. Go ahead and type CS for Cam Smith. Now, let's take a look at the Dolphins' approach to free agency, because with all the moving pieces, there's the chance for perhaps the notion to look elsewhere aside from the re-signing of a few free agents that you have. And an interesting name to keep an eye on, especially with the connection to the Dolphins' new defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver, is Patrick Queen, a guy who becomes a free agent in March. He's only 25 years old. And NFL.com had him as one of the better defensive free agents, and linebacker in particular, 28th best overall. But there's a lot of factors that make sense for him to at least explore the possibility of signing with Miami. When you look at his 2023 stats, the proof is on the stat sheet: 133 tackles, 9 of them for loss, 3.5 sacks. But he's that three-down linebacker that really can go side to side. He was paired with Roquan Smith for the Ravens and really excelled. And again, there's the connection to Anthony Weaver, who was the Ravens defensive line coach and now the Dolphins defensive coordinator. And looking internally with the Miami Dolphins, you've got David Long and Jerome Baker. Obviously, Baker suffered that injury against Washington in Week 14, I believe, and missed some time. And Duke Riley as a replacement just did not suffice. David Long had a decent season, but the addition of a guy like Patrick Queen would certainly elevate that linebacker room. So let me know what you think in the comments. Pretend you're the GM for a second. Do you want Miami to sign Patrick Queen? Type S for sign or P for pass, because what you'd be comparing him to is the current production from the inside linebacker room with David Long and Jerome Baker. Here's what both of them were able to put forth in 2023. Again, Baker missing a couple of games late in the season, and I think his absence was certainly felt by this Dolphins defense. But David Long had one of his better seasons, over 113 tackles, 9 tackles for loss. And Jerome Baker plays at a different way where he provides a little bit more in the passing game with the 2 interceptions. So 2 guys that you felt pretty good about, but maybe Patrick Queen takes the Dolphins defense to that next level. And when you look at the Dolphins defense, Vic Fangio's out, new defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver is in, but there were some things to take home from 2023 to be excited about. 10th overall in total defense, but that scoring defense not great, 22nd. They did find a way to get pressure and then get to the quarterback. A big shout out to Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, both of which who will be injured to start the season in 2024. Andrew Van Ginkel, a free agent as well. So the Dolphins rush room certainly with some questions as well. Because if Wilkins and other free agents walk, then maybe Patrick Queen is who you shift your direction to. I don't think it's necessarily plan A, but certainly something to keep in the hopper. based on everything that's developing as we move forward here with the Dolphins not using the tag on Christian Wilkins and perhaps needing to look elsewhere than internally to fill some of those holes. Now, as we get set to close out this edition of Dolphins Today, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and just provide a little bit of a news update for you and all of us here at Chat Sports. Today will officially be my last Dolphins Today and my last day with Chat Sports as I've decided to pursue other professional opportunities. It's been a sincere honor to be the host of Dolphins Today and serve in this role. And I've grown to love the community. And whether you watched one episode for 30 seconds or every single episode from start to finish or everything in between, it's just been a sincere honor to host Dolphins Today. And I absolutely know the Dolphins Today community will continue to be the absolute best Dolphins community on YouTube. And also a sincere thank you to the CEO of Chat Sports, James Yoder, and the COO of Chat Sports, Brett Scott, for their belief in me and the opportunity to serve in this role. So for the final time, thanks so much for tuning in to Dolphins Today. We'll certainly miss every component of Dolphins Today. It's been an absolute blast, and I've enjoyed every second of it. And as we always say on here, we love you and we care about you. And as always, for the final time, thanks so much for tuning in, and forever, go Dolphins, and thanks for watching Dolphins Today.